for those of you, thank you so much, and thank you for coming to our program. We have a wonderful guest speaker today. At this point in time, on the chair are prayer cards from 40 Days for Life, and there is a prayer that was composed by Pastor Walter and Darlene Moss on the back of the card. And I'd like to ask you to join me in that prayer as we open up this program. Dear Heavenly Father, I exalt you. I repent for my part in the apathy, complacency, and complicity of Christians who have allowed the shedding of innocent blood to rage in the USA and across the world. Forgive us, Father, as we forgive others, that your kingdom may come, your will be done, that men and women not perish, but come to your salvation and discipleship. May the bloodlines of evil covenants and vows, the doctrines of demons, made by many of our forefathers, be broken and destroyed. And may the godliness of each of our family members be established now and forever. Thank you for pouring out your Spirit upon our children from conception, blessing them, protecting them from all evil, and keeping them morally and sexually pure in desire and deed. May abortion be unthinkable, and may we be vessels of honor for godly seed on this earth. In your holy name, amen. Well, again, welcome, and I always like to begin with a few thank yous, especially to Father Tom Elsasser and the parish of St. Mary's for allowing us to use their facilities. They've been doing this for years and years, and it's such a godsend. And I want to thank my board, Denver Sallee, our president, Ann Seabright, Renee Friedman, Teresa Fetsko, Bob Kleinhen, Steve Stolt, Sue Urban, and I think that's it. But they do a phenomenal job, and if you guys can give them a hand, please. We have some tables available for you to look at after the program if you haven't visited them already. We welcome our 40 Days for Life table. Their campaign is going to begin on February 10th. We also have Dawn's Life is here with her Mama movies and her Christian scarves, and she wanted me to let any of you know if you're a sidewalk counselor, she will provide a free camera for any sidewalk counselor in need. And so if you want to talk to her, she'll give you all the details on that. The other thing that's come to my attention is that today's a special day for a really wonderful couple, Tom and Jean Riddell. This is their 35th wedding anniversary. And Darlene Moss just recently celebrated her birthday too. Okay. If you visit the Lake County Right to Life table, we still have some Our Town books available for purchase for $28. This is our annual fundraiser, and if you want, you can purchase it. And at this point in time, if Rod and Bob, we're going to just do our collection. If you feel free to give whatever you want to help Lake County Right to Life further mission for 2016. And I failed to mention, Pastor Moss has a table in the back too. I'm sorry, Pastor. He's got his book available, and I'm sure you know his story. I'm bringing it. So at this time, we're taking a good look collection. I'd like to introduce our guest speaker. Her name's Darlene Moss. She was conceived by rape, grew up feeling worth less than others, and was a target of human trafficking at 13. Sold into prostitution on her 14th birthday, and faked an abortion to get free from the man holding her. She pledged her life to God and married a wonderful man, raised 5 great children, and now has 2 grandchildren. She has been a practicing nurse for 26 years and has worked in the pro-life ministry for more than 22 years. She has spoken at many venues, including the New Hampshire legislature, public events, radio and TV interviews, schools, churches, youth groups, and other groups around the New England area and beyond. She has served as a trustee and as president of New Hampshire Right to Life, and is currently the chair of the Educational Trust and the Political Action Committee. She is also a member of the Sallee One organization. Please give a warm welcome to Darlene Paul.
Ready to speak like this? Okay, so keep it right here. Thank you so much for being here. When I think about what you've gone through out there, especially you who have marched, I can't thank you enough, because it's because of people like you that I'm actually here. When Jacqui told you my story, it sort of skimmed the surface and I said, oh, that sounds like a lot, but really if I could take just a few minutes to actually tell you a little bit about my life, you'll understand why I thank you that I'm here. My mom was 15 years old when she was brutalized, and he said to her, you might as well marry me because nobody's going to want you. I ruined you. She came from a kind of lousy home, and she believed him. She thought she was ruined. When she found out she was pregnant, she did marry him. And he brutalized her for the next year and a half, and she found herself pregnant again. And when she found herself pregnant again, she called her mom and she said, if you don't get me out of here, I'm going to kill us. Because they never had normal relationship. It was always brutal. It was during the Vietnam War, so he would go away at times, and she survived because he wasn't always there, but when he was very cruel. And he attacked her every time. For some reason, he really thought that was damn good thing to do, I guess. But to her, it was very demoralizing. She was very depressed. Very, very, as you can imagine, she had a lot of issues. She was very angry all the time. She had a really hard time. When we were growing up, she took care of us, but it was sort of out of a sense of duty. And it wasn't the nurturing, loving relationship that one might hope for. We had an oar that she used for discipline. My sister had fine hair that would tangle, so she has bald spots from the hairbrushing. So you can kind of get a picture of how chaotic the house was. She did live with her mom for a while, and then she got married. For a couple of years, her husband gave us a fairly stable place to live. And she never imagined that my father would abuse children. She never thought that would happen. So we were sent on weekends to go stay with my paternal grandmother. She dressed us up in frilly little clothes and made us available for him to do what he wanted in the barn on her property. There were times when I would come in the house, filthy from head to toe from the various things that he would have done to us. And she would just put us in the tub and she would tell me, don't you say a word. And so I would get in the car to go home with my mom, and I didn't say a word. I didn't speak for the next 2 days. Nothing. I wouldn't say a word. We were brought up in a very chaotic household. It was very torturous. I pushed most of that out of my mind, and my sister lived through all of it, but I was able to put a lot of it out of my mind and not even pay attention to it. She divorced him, and we lived in a small mill town, and I was alone a lot. So at that time, I stopped going to my paternal family's house. And I met a really nice-looking man, very handsome. He drove a black Cadillac with red interior, and he seemed really nice. He just made conversation with everybody in the neighborhood, and he didn't push himself on us. He just made himself available. He hung around and pretended like he was talking or looking for somebody else and talking to other people. But really now I recognize that he was a trafficker. After a while, I went to his apartment. It wasn't long before I was in his bed. And soon after that, he would tell me, you could make money for the things that you need, because I didn't have anything. We were dirt poor. And we didn't have proper shoes in the winter, we didn't have gloves, we didn't have hats. And so he would tell me, well, you can have whatever you want. Just do what you're doing with you with others. So for my 14th birthday, my mom came home, and we hadn't been getting along. And I was eagerly anticipating something for my birthday, at least a happy birthday, something. Well, she came in the house and put her things down, and I said, Mom, it's my birthday. And she goes, oh. And she took two crumpled dollar bills and threw them on the table. Here, go get yourself something. I was devastated. I was so hurt that she didn't recognize my birthday. I knew that I had been conceived and raped, and I was grateful for her for that life. But I always felt, because of that, like I was a product of rape. You've probably heard that before. I really had that instilled in me. Even though I had pushed the abuse out of my mind, it was still in me. It was still in my heart. And so when she did that, I pretty much got right on the phone and called this young man. And he never asked for my phone number. He gave me his phone number and said, if you ever need anything. See, he seemed like a really nice guy. He sold me to a businessman that day, and I was standing out in a day very much like this. The slush was up above my ankles and my sneakers. I was freezing cold waiting for him outside the drugstore, standing there just like any drugstore that you would have around here, a small town, just standing outside the drugstore waiting for this man to come and pick me up. As I awkwardly took off my clothes in front of this businessman, he seemed ecstatic that I was just 14 years old. At that time, I didn't recognize what was going on. I was really thinking this was my decision. I'm a big girl now, I can do what I want. I was sold for the next 4 years. I was brutalized, I was left for dead, I was just dropped on the side of the road. I mean, really beat up a lot of times. I was in and out of foster care during those times. I was arrested. I was picked up by the FBI looking for some mafia people. This was all the area that I was in was where there was some mafia people. So it was all over the place. But I really thought that I was making my own decisions. So I thought that I was the woman from Proverbs, that woman who calls men to their doom. I had no self-worth. I was evil in my own eyes. When I was 18, I was sold as a house pet to one man, and I thought, I'll be safe then. Nobody's going to beat me up. He took me out to dinner. He bought me nice clothes. I got a job. My first job, I worked at a pizza store. This is kind of almost normal. I felt a lot safer. It was kind of like being on the right side of the gun. Anybody shooting me? Well, I shoot. You want to be on the right side of the gun. I knew this guy was dangerous. But I really felt like I was in the safer place. Well, when I got pregnant, he told me I had an abortion. I thought, I hadn't gotten pregnant all this time, I could get pregnant. So when I got sick and I went to the doctor and he said I was pregnant, I told him, and he said, well, you have to have an abortion. And I said, I don't have an abortion. Well, I'll go away, I won't bother you, I won't. No, you have to have an abortion, or I will kill you. I want no. Shocking right through me. And I knew he was serious. I knew there was no way I was getting away from this. The man who had sold me to him had beat me up numerous times. He had kidnapped me from parties. He had taken me from my foster care home when I was in foster care. I mean, I knew there was no way I was getting away with this. So I made the appointment in his presence. And all the time I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I can't do this. I want to be a mother more than anything in the world. Since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a mother. I loved my dolls. I played with my dolls. I babysat. I mean, I just didn't want to do that. It was so horrifying to me. So somehow, after I made the appointment, somehow I fell asleep that night. And I had a dream of the abortion procedure in living color from the perspective of the womb. So I saw that little face. I woke up and stopped, and I was, what am I going to do? Literally throwing my hands up in the air, walking around the apartment. I'm thinking, I can't do that. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? God, if you're real, you need to show up, because I can't do this. I'm going to die. I would rather die. I would rather die. And I remembered an old social worker that I had when I was a runaway. And I only knew her name, but I called the Department of Youth Services and I asked for her, and somebody found her for me. And I talked to her, and she found a home for unwed mothers for me, and they had a spot for me. And then I was like, okay, great, now what do I do? Because if I run, he's going to find me. He told me after the appointment that I had to go out to dinner with him. So I got some friends together, took all my stuff, and planned for my stuff to get put wherever it needed to be. I took some clothes and put them in a bag so that I was ready to bolt. And when he came to pick me up that afternoon to go out to dinner, I was shaking, I was crying, I was upset. I thought he was going to find out that I had not gone to his home. I was literally way worse than I'm shaking now, because I'm not reliving this, and I don't know if you can feel that, but I was so upset. And we drove an hour and 10 minutes down to Boston, and he didn't say a word the whole time, but all the time I'm telling him, something happened to me when I was on that table. I can't do this anymore, I don't want to be with you anymore. I have a cousin that's going to give me a job. She said I've been working her diner up in Maine, and I can live there and I can do whatever. I can't do this anymore. He didn't say anything to me. He didn't say, yes, you can go. He didn't say, no, I'm not letting you go, nothing. We had dinner, I carried on, I cried, I went to the bathroom frequently, I did everything I thought I should do. We got back in the car, and it wasn't long before he said, okay, I'll be back. But if you come back to the city, you're mine. And I was still shaking, and I was still upset. And I didn't know if it was going to be real. But I got my stuff together and I left the next day, and I told my mom, all in one sentence, I'm pregnant and I have to run away, but I have a place to go. Because I had just started talking to her again, and she's like shocked, what? So I went down to this home for unwed mothers, and I promised God, if this baby is okay, I will serve you, and I will bring her, him, whatever, and all my children up in a fair enough measure of the world. I never saw that man again. Thank you, God. You can thank God for that. As I never saw him again. I really think he would have killed me. I think he would have killed the baby too. My baby was okay. She turned 30 this past October. Right? Shortly before she turned 30, I actually got to meet the woman who had given me that home for 3 months. Her name is Marilyn, and I got to go to her home that she still has established in Boston. She's moved, the home has moved. But I got to speak with the girls that were there, and I got to talk to them and tell them, this is a temporary time. It's not always going to be like this. When you're out there, and a lot of you I know, because I work counselors or in the ministry, reaching out to people, you see those girls in their car, and they're crass, and they're breaking into houses. We used to steal cars for fun, just for fun. I was a bad person. I know Jacqui just told you I've been in the ministry for over 23 years, and I've been really trying my hardest to be a good person, meaning I really care about people, and I don't be obnoxious to anyone with purpose ever. And of course, everybody makes mistakes and slight people by accident. But I'm a completely radically different person than I was then. I would kick anybody in the shin. There was one young man who was giving me a hard time at a party. He had a brace on. I went to drop kick him because I was aggravated. That's the kind of person I was. But we can all come out of that. We all have times where we go up, down, over, sideways, under, whatever. When you see that hard girl on the street, think of me. Think of what change happened in my life, and that can change in her life too. She just needs a hinge moment. She She just needs that term. That's all she needs. Abused, neglected at times, feeling so worthless for most of my life. I genuinely didn't know there were good people in the world until I was 18 when I met Aaron Denning. Even the social worker that helped me, I thought that's her job. I mean, she's only doing that because it's her job. I didn't realize that really she didn't have to come help me that day because it wasn't her job anymore. She never had to come back, but she did. And that's when I found out that there were genuine good people in the world. And a lot of the girls that you see, even the young guys that you see that are pushing their girlfriends into abortion, they don't know that you are here. They don't know that you would help them. They just think everybody's out for themselves. And then you have some kind of an angle, you want to use them, or you want to get something out of them. There's no good people in the world in our lives. That's what I grew up with. That's what I really believed. And there's a lot of people out there in the same situation. And that trauma has stunted their ability to make decisions. They can't make good decisions. And they're faltering when they need to. And I'm so grateful for you. So grateful. Because you're the kind of people who are going to show them that they can change their lives and that there are good people who will help them to do that. In my time growing up and bringing up my children, I was telling Jacqui today, I wanted to be nothing like what I grew up with. So my children never had access, my father's family never had access to my children. They never had that example. They never had that chaos. My husband, he's so awesome. When I met him when my first daughter was born of trafficking was 6 months old, and we were on again, off again. So because I had all kinds of issues, he was way too good for me. I didn't think that he would really care about me. Was he really going to stay? Was he really going to be a good supportive person? But he did, and he was. And so we got married, and we've been married now for over 25 years. 25 years. That would have been unimaginable to me as a teenager. I couldn't have believed it. Even until probably 20 years old, I would never have imagined that I could stay married and live in the same house. Oh, I lived in the same house for 20 years, but stay married. That was so outside of my possibility for me because I had no example. And thank God for people like you who are an example. I just was clapping for 35 years of marriage. Who are you? Raise your hands. Yes. You are an example. Thank you. We need you. These young people that are going out today need you so much. They just need somebody to be an example to them. At Lake County, Right to Life, I got to talk with Jacqui and her husband for a while today and all this stuff that's going on. It just, when you're in this ministry, it seems so hard. It seems so hard. I just read a story the other day about another group that was found putting babies in a dump. We have in New Hampshire, our March for Life starts at the dump. Because in 1988, there were 50 to 80 bodies because they were in pieces. There's between 50 and 80 bodies at the dump. And one of our trustees tried to get them pulled out. Zoom so that they could have a proper burial. And the people at the dump just bulldozed over it. And the environmental agency said, well, it's got 2 feet covering it now, it's fine. We don't need to know anything about that. So we go out there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's cold and it's windy and it's just like this. And you think of those poor babies that are out there in the cold, and that's heartbreaking. But for the ones that we save, like me, I now have 5 children. They've all served in ministry. They're all wonderful, wonderful people. You don't save that one girl. You don't save that one baby. You save a heritage. You save a lot of other people. And, in my case, an example. I mean, not only an example to my kids, but I'm out in ministry and I'm talking to people. That's what happens when you minister to these young girls. That's what happens when you save them from abortion. You save them, their futures, their you're doing. So thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you. Did anybody have any questions for me? Yes, sir. He asked, how did God come into my life? Actually, when my mom married her second husband, he did take us to a little congregational church, and I did accept the Lord then. So his mom, my grandmother from him, gave me a Bible, and I used to read it a lot. I was telling Jacqui today, I wanted to be like Mary when I was a kid. I wanted to be the mother of the sister. I wanted to be that holy mother. So badly. And at that time, I didn't, like I said, I pushed out all the abuse. I didn't realize that I was so defiled. That's why I was gravitating toward that. That I wanted the opposite of everything I knew. The opposite of everything that had happened to me. But so I got to know God in those early years when I was a kid. But I didn't need discipleship. I didn't anybody that showed me, hey, this is how you're supposed to live. I just had that one Bible for myself. And like I said, I was targeted at a pretty young age to be drawn off into the other. And I did every drug I could come up with, every drug that would fall into my hand. I'm very grateful I didn't get heroin because I probably wouldn't be here now. I probably would have done that. But I did everything else. I hung around with a lot of mafia people, so I did a lot of codes and cocaine at that time. That was really big when we were in the organized crime in the Boston area. Yes, sir. Praise God. He's saying that there was a young man whose girlfriend threatened him with abortion, and he married her to save the baby, and actually it happened twice. So he's basically reaffirming that God can really move into somebody's life and save. And the children that were saved were also had children, so it's a heritage again. He's saying he's just reaffirming what I said. Thank you. Yes, sir.
How's your sister?
How's my sister? My sister's doing well now. It's taken her a lot of years. She actually confronted my father and his wife just last year, actually, last year. And he was somewhat repentant, but there's a statute of limitations, so there's nothing going on with that. She did struggle a lot with her relationships for a long time, but she's married now and she's doing well. Thank you for asking. Yes, sir. He wants to know about my marriage story. Okay, so here's the deal. This is so fun. This is a really fun story. It's really great when he tells it with me because he's like taking turns. But I'm going to tell you. So I was living with my grandmother. I came home still pregnant. I lived with my grandmother. And I had the baby there. And then she answered an ad in the Singles Almanac, Match.com, only in paper. So she answered this ad, and he's going through the stack, and this is his private details. He's going through the stack, he got a whole bunch of responses. But this one stood out to me because it's written in this gorgeous handwriting, and it is signed Miss Darling Williams. And he thought, oh, I like that. That sounds really classy. And look at this handwriting, it's beautiful. So he looked at it a lot of times, and then he called. Of course, she answered the phone, not me, and she said, this guy's gonna call you. I'm like, okay, so what about, well, I ain't taking that one for you. So we had a telephone relationship for about 6 months. And he found out that I had a baby, and I was on welfare, and I was 7 years younger than him. And he's like, no way. But I had his phone number. So I just kept calling him. And every once in a while, when he was bored, he'd even call me. And so we talked back and forth. And he had one day had a really bad cold in the summertime. And he called me. I was talking to him, and I said, I'd make a really great chicken soup. That's that old saying. So he came over and he had chicken soup, and at that time, 1986, drop skirts, little tiny, what do you call it, leotards were in style, little couple sleeves, and just right up his alley. I had a denim skirt on, and he was like, hi, how are you? And I said, hi, how are you? And so we got lunch together, and then our relationship was a little bit off again, on again. I didn't think that I deserved anybody so great, and he grew up totally different than me. He lived in one house his entire life. His dad died when he was 13, but other than that, everything in his life was stable. He went to college and went to home. He didn't move out till he was 25 years old. Totally different life. So we weren't always together. We weren't together when I graduated from nursing school, and I got pregnant from an old boyfriend. I had been celibate, but that night, that one time, I got pregnant. So it wasn't long after that we were home again, and I had to tell him that I was pregnant. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because we had not been together. So he said, how did that happen? I mean, he knew how it happened, but that was his response. So he said, well, I'll marry you. I will marry you. And I said, no. And I'm 6 months pregnant. And he said, well, why don't you marry me? And I said, no. He said, now when you marry me after I have a baby? And I said, no. I was afraid. I was just afraid. I was afraid. So the baby's about 2 months old. We're at McDonald's, and the birds are flittering all around. It was a beautiful day. The sun was shining. Ashley, my first daughter, was playing over on the side, and the baby was tucked under a big bench in the shade. And I looked at him and I said, why don't you marry me? And he said, okay. So we were married in another 6 weeks. We got married. And it was a little rocky here and there, as every marriage is, though. And that's why I try to tell people now, is like, we all have stuff. Right? Is anybody here through a tragedy? No. Does anybody here never had a hard time, a rough financial time, or a family member, a sibling, or somebody that is wrong with them? No, we've all had stuff. Every single person has stuff that they have to deal with. We just locked arms and said, whatever you in the deal, we're in this together. It's our boat, and we're going to do this. And you can too, you can too. You do have to decide together, obviously, but so that's how I met the wonderful man. I'm not sure who asked that question. Thank you. He did adopt the other two. He did adopt them. Yes, dear.
I'm a sidewalk counselor, and I just want to know, you were talking about what really affected me that you said was that some of the girls that are really hardened that we see in the clinics are actually, they've never known that they were with good people as well. We usually only have a real short period of time, if at all, to talk to them. We try to gently coax them to come and talk to us, and that we're not there to do that, we're there to help. Can you tell me anything that you think might be helpful after listening to their story, just we can say to help in that specific situation? Like, what if a girl's trafficked? What's the good thing to say to a girl?
She's asking, what is the thing to say when you're doing sidewalk counseling to a girl who is trapped, who's home, who doesn't believe that you're really genuine? That's being trafficked specifically. There are helplines that you could have, like, I'm sure you have literature.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, you're talking about being trafficked. Do you have trafficking literature? because there are rescue organizations for trafficking too, not just crisis pregnancy, but also for the trafficking. There are safe houses that will remove them from where they are and send them to someplace safe. And it's really hard because they go back. I went back numerous times. It's the saying is the evil you know is better than the evil you don't know. You know? But one second, sweetheart. Letting them know that you care and that they have options is probably the only thing you can do. If you're concerned, like if you see bruises or you see that she is in a t-shirt on a day like today, you can call the authorities and tell them that there's something wrong in the situation, that you believe this child is being trafficked. The police can pick them up and see if they can help them at that point. That's pretty much all we can do. Yes, ma'am?
I'm sorry, but it didn't seem like the answer. Cut her question quite to the degree that, or not, but I understand, because I sat on council as well, and sometimes you will see an older gentleman, like an older guy in his 50s, and a young girl in like 14 or so. We have literally like 10 seconds to say something. So I think that's what she's trying to, like, what can you say? But maybe that's a difficult question because you have 10 seconds and, you know, they can say, here, help me, you know. But like I said, there's like 2 or 3, I don't know, 10 seconds. So I guess I would be really interested in what your answer would be to that specific circumstance.
So you're looking for sound bites?
Yes.
Yeah, sound bites. Okay, there are people who can help you if you're feeling in danger. Are you in danger? Do you feel hurt? Are you scared? Is there somebody who's going to hurt you? Do you have a safe place? There are these kinds of things that you can ask them real quick that might trigger them to be able to respond to you. Like those are 3-4 seconds. That's pretty much what you have. Yeah, just those questions. Do you have a safe place? You know, are you in danger? That's pretty much all you can do. There are people who can help you is probably what you say. You're saying that. So you're saying the same thing that I would say to trafficking victims as I would to any other crisis pregnancy.
I was a crisis pregnant. Married 4 years. My
Congratulations.
husband turned 18 5 days before we got married, and I turned 19 20 days later. And we had our son 4 months after that. Back then, you couldn't get pregnancy tests in the grocery store. You know, you had to go to a to get that across to the people on the street, I don't know how you would do that. But those two examples are things that have made an impact on, I know some girls who are considering abortion.
So did you all hear them? Yeah, we got that. So there are a few sound bites specifically for that. And somebody says, well, what about rape? Well, it's not the baby's fault, the baby's the second victim. Won't you protect the second victim? And that's a hard thing. It depends on who you're talking to and how much time you have, if you can actually say that. The baby is only a second victim of their crime, not the aggressor. Always. That's an easy thing to say because that's the truth. And the baby should not be punished for the crimes of her father. And another thing I say is you keep using the term 9 months. Most people don't know they're pregnant until they're 5 to 7 weeks. So you've already passed at least a month. So it's a big consideration because people say 9 months, 9 months, 9 months. Not 9 months. By the time you know you're pregnant, when these girls are going to the abortion vendors, they're already 5 to 7 weeks pregnant. So if they're pregnant, they're 5 to 7 weeks pregnant. They don't know they're pregnant immediately. It's very rare. Sometimes, but very rare. Yes, sir.
No, for my background, I grew up in the 60s, and when I came in, I was talking to some ladies over there, and the whole attitude about sexuality started with pretty changed for a long time before that, but it changed in the 60s when the pill came out, and a lot of us, our parents would talk to us about sex. And that's, and why don't we, understand, why do ladies want to do that? Because, you can just have baby and just, I was talking to somebody when I first started going to the preterm at a bus stop in Cleveland. And she said she had had 2 kids, I think that's 9 kids, and she had 2 abortions. And she said, well, I don't know that I'm going to die. It was like, value of life is not there. A lot of students don't know. Students do not know about the value of life and cheapen it so much with all that went on. And I understand that. I can't get a hand. Maybe because I'm not a woman. And I don't know, what that's like. But I can't get out of my mind. About how our society values that. A lot of people think more than right. And how did you run into many African American women or Hispanic women or in your background or?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Did you run into many African American women or Hispanic women or Canadian women that were like you, that had gone to what you had gone to?
Yes, I have.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, and what he's saying is the value of life for our society is plummeted, but not in this room. And you should be congratulated for that. Thank you. Thank you again. God bless you.
At this time, if you can all stand, I thought we could close with the Our Father together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And God bless you for all your support.